Good evening and welcome. As you can tell, this is an excited crowd tonight for what promises to be the main event of this evening. This is, of course, the Mayoral Forum, brought to you by the Brandon Sun and Westman Communications. To reiterate what I've said several times over the course of the last couple of days, that not only are there hundreds of people here in the foyer this evening, this is also being broadcast live throughout our region on Access 12. Westman Communications will further be broadcasting this in the coming days. Both the Brandon Sun and CKLQ News will be reporting on the forum tomorrow, and it will also be webcast on brandonsun.com. We went through the ground rules earlier. They will remain very much the same. The candidates will each have a minute to begin, make their opening statements. They will, at the same, have a minute at the end for their closing statements. We've introduced the panelists. Again, we have Alison Dowd from the Brandon Sun. We have Devon Ross from the Brandon Sun. We have John Lareggio from CKLQ News. I suspect, given the list of tough questions that you have, that we should get right into the opening statements. And we're going to start at my extreme right with Nicholas Avlanidis. Nicholas, I apologize in advance if I make a mistake on your name. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. Mr. Avalon's fine too. Yeah, just make it short and easy. Opening statements this night, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Brandon, welcome to the 2010 Brandon City elections. My name is Nicholas Avlanidis, and I will be running for the office of mayor. I'm hoping I can count on all your votes for fresh and vital leadership in the City Hall. Looking back quickly, I would like to remember our last city elections, and I'm certain we can all agree that they were some of the most memorable elections in our history. And we had drawn the attention of actually all of Canada in those elections. So together we can now say that we've made a piece of our memorable history together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dave Burgess.
Thanks very much, Kerry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you all here to witness this evening. I'm very proud to be here. I'm currently serving as mayor, running for re-election, of course. I have my wife Susan here tonight. We have 5 children together, 3 sons, 2 stepdaughters, and they're all in their 20s, and quite pleased to be supporting of myself going ahead for this re-election bid. I'm very proud of what we have achieved as a community, working with all of City Council. I think what we've achieved is tremendous, but there's so much more that can be achieved with all the building blocks that we've put in place. Brandon is a city that I'm very proud of, love very much, and like to see it progress forward. So I look forward to the next 4 years and ask for your support.
Thank you. Sherry Dr. Hurst.
Thanks very much. My name's Sherry Dr. Hurst, and I'm running for mayor. We need a change. Change in processes so that the relationship between City Hall and Brandon citizens is one of openness, strong two-way communication, transparency, and accountability. Change in planning so that it's proactive, using data, setting goals, measuring progress against those goals, to find solutions for the issues that are impacting our city, like our aging population, the housing crisis, immigration, and infrastructure. Change in a vision for revitalizing our downtown, building a smart economy with smart jobs so that our kids and grandkids don't have to leave home. And most importantly, in this election, a change in leadership. So what do you want in Brandon to look like in 5 years, in 10 years? Who do you think has the skill set to get us there? My name is Sherry Dr. Hurst, and I'm running for mayor.
Thank you. Henry Hansen.
Thank you. My name's Henry Hansen, and I'm also running for mayor, same as Sherry here. I'd like to say that I'm disappointed that there's no snacks and coffee here tonight. I think, however, on a more serious note, I think the housing situation, Brandon, is getting critical, and I want to see it addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go directly over to our panelist table, and holding the microphone is Devon Ross, the Brandon Sun.
And my first question is for Mayor Dave Burgess and Sherry Dr. Hurst. To date, you have each made a number of campaign promises, and you'll be making more promises in the next couple of weeks, that will all cost taxpayers money. But neither of you has made any promises that will reduce our tax burden, and you haven't told us how much these promises are going to cost. Does a vote for either of you mean higher taxes?
You want me to start? Thank you very much. Actually, with what I put forward, I want to make sure that it is very measurable and achievable. I have always run for the past 8 years that I want to see the inflation or lower for our tax increases, not zero level. I don't look for that. If it happens, I'm comfortable with that too, if that's what we can reach as a budget, and it's a responsible decision to make. But I am definitely in support of keeping up with infrastructure, investing in our future, and also the quality of life that we all want to achieve in this city.
Will you, before October 27th, do a costing of your promises for the public?
Very much. We have promises, for example, such as the bike park that I mentioned just this week. It's a maximum $5,000 investment. So everything that I do, I take a look at what the value will be to the community, but also what the cost will be as far as taxation. And I think when you take a look at the record that I've had and what council has had, we always take that into consideration.
Okay. Sherry?
Yeah, thanks very much, Devon. That absolutely, I think that we need to get information about taxes and how much promises cost out in the community. Again, as Mayor Burgess had mentioned, the information and the promises need to be measurable and that information available. But I'm not going to say that I'm going to reduce taxes, and in fact, frankly, we've got an issue with infrastructure in this city that we're going to have to address. What I will give you the commitment for is that we're going to work together and figure out what our priorities are so that when we come to setting taxes, we're going to know and understand what goes into those taxes.
So you're promising that by October 27th, there'll be a costing of your promises, including the Sportsplex promise, the Strand Theatre promise, any of the other promises you've made? Will we know how much it's going to cost?
Absolutely.
Great.
Next up, Alison Dowd.
All right, this next question is for both Mr. Burgess and Ms. Dexter-Hurst, and the other two candidates can weigh in if they feel they want to. A lot has been batted about in the past few weeks about transparency at City Hall and conflict of interest. Please tell me to what extent you think a mayor should go in terms of divulging any interests that they may have with regards to a council decision. Further to that, should a public perception of conflict of interest be enough to recuse oneself from debate and or decision? And we'll start with Mayor Dave Burgess.
Sure. Well, that, I think I've always shown that I remove myself even if it's a possibly perceived conflict of interest, is the way I've always coined it. If it's anything to do with yourself, pecuniary interest, you definitely should remove yourself. But even a relative of mine, of course, my brother has been in developing. I always make sure, even though I don't legally have to, I remove myself for possibly perceived conflict of interest. Even with the boundary expansion where that came into play, I made sure to move away from that. So I think it's extremely important to divulge any type of conflict of interest. And you were saying about being transparent, that's something that I've always strived to do, and I answer all questions.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I'll ask you a follow-up before we move on to the other candidates. You actually just talked a few weeks ago in the council chambers. It was about something different, but you quoted the fact that perception is reality. Sure. If the public perception is there, that a conflict of interest, whether it be pecuniary or perceived, if it's there, should you not recuse yourself in the interest of erring on the side of caution?
I think you always have to take a look at what you're running into as far as whether it is a conflict of interest or even possibly perceived. And definitely with what was just raised here, with the Fleming property sale, that was raised. I checked with the city clerk on that. Definitely I didn't feel any at all. No personal interest in that at all. In fact, that one I'll use for an example where I had somebody that is just volunteering for my campaign of no financial interest to me personally at all. One of the other applicants my son works for, another applicant, of course being university, I have a stepdaughter that attends university as a student. I know all of the different individuals with the application. Conflict of interest is there actually to protect the individual so that they can serve.
I'll just get you to wrap up that question by then saying you've told the full crowd here tonight of all the potential or the ties you had in regards to the Fleming property. I'm just wondering why you couldn't say that in 5 seconds at the beginning of the start of the debate last Monday night.
Because if you don't feel that there is any conflict of interest, you don't put that forward, you don't remove yourself. And that is definitely something that we learn from the municipal law. We have our city clerk to also give us advice as well.
All right, thank you. Sherry, if you have any comments?
Thanks very much, Allison. Politics is all about trust. You put a lot of trust in the representatives at City Council to make the right decisions and work in your best interests. If folks are benefiting from decisions at City Council, perhaps inappropriately, then it affects that level of trust and erodes the trust. And if you haven't got trust in your politicians, then I think we're in a pretty sad state of affairs. So in terms of conflict of interest, I think that in fact you have to be better than Caesar's wife and err on the part of more than full disclosure.
All right, thank you, Sherry. Actually, a good follow-up to that would be very recently in our publication, you stated you would have a direct benefit from any improvements to the Strand Theatre project. I'm just wondering, in the event you are to become our new mayor, would you recuse yourself from any debate surrounding improvements made to the Strand Theatre project?
Sure, and in fact, we can really start that tonight. I own, with my husband Derry, 2 properties downtown at 940 Rosser, and again, the property in question on 10th Street. I also own a house at 1340 on Louise, and I would be absolutely delighted if property values in downtown went up. So again, would I recuse myself from that decision? Absolutely. Would I stop lobbying to try and improve downtown and improve property values downtown? Unfortunately, no. I'm going to be the biggest champion for boosting downtown that there is.
Do any of the other gentlemen wish to respond?
One comment came to mind when Mrs. Hurst mentioned the word trust. She says that politics are all about trust. Well, outside of being a politician tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a painter. I'm a private contractor and a painter. If there's anyone that the general public bestows trust into, it's the painter, because usually no one's there when you're painting. Other than that, with respects to conflict of interest, no, this idea of conflict of interest is coming from the property on Victoria Avenue that was sold to Mr. Brugger. You know, that sale was not in conflict of interest. I was in attendance at that meeting, and all the councillors stood up
Mr.
quite
Avalonis,
satisfied.
could we keep on point? Do you, if you found yourself in a situation as mayor, a painting contract perhaps, would you recuse yourself if you felt
I can
there was a
understand
conflict of
understand your question. If I was to find myself as mayor in a situation of conflict of interest, yeah, certainly. If it made a measurable quantity of people in the community feel more safe and better with the decision-making process of the council and the city, then most certainly I would remove myself, yeah.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hanson, do you have anything to add?
Just that an honest person should have nothing to hide. I agree with Sherry's statement about transparency. If I ever found myself in an issue of conflict of interest, I would definitely recuse myself.
Thank you.